There's a new me coming out, and I just have to live, and I wanna give. I'm completely positive. I think this time around I am gonna do it like you never knew it. Oh, I'll make it through. The time has come for me to break out of the shell. I have to shout that I am coming out. I'm coming out. I want the world to know.
Welcome to the show, Never Too Late Ever, where we focus on making the next chapter of your life the very best chapter ever. It is up to you. I am your host, Lorraine Hoving, and I am so glad you are joining us today. This day, excuse me, could change your life. Open your heart, open your ears, and listen. You may find a treasure you can apply to your life today. Today, I am so excited to have our guest back from last week. Hi, Marian.
Hi, Lorraine. Thank you.
I'm so excited. So let me tell you a little bit about Marian if you weren't here last week. And I would suggest if you weren't, you're going to want to hear the backstory. Marian McSpadden, along with her husband, and she's been married to her husband, was it 18 years?
14.
14. Oh, I added a few there. They own a multi-million-dollar business. She was born in the secluded culture of a horse-drawn buggy religious organization. When she was 34 years, she escaped her world as she knew it. Immediately, she was attracted to education and took a GED and later graduated with a bachelor's degree. She sees no skin color and has a strong ability to bridge cultural gaps. She speaks to corporate, women's, and other groups. Everyone has something they are a prisoner to, and Marian helps people find what that is, and she helps them break free. So your message is about breaking free. You know, we talked last week about your childhood and how you had to break free. What in working with people, what other ways do you see that people have to break free? I'm sure as you talk to people in groups and stuff, it's not just your childhood, it could be other limitations. How do you see people that, not how, but what do you see that people need to break free from?
There is way too much, I wish it wasn't so, is the hurts that come from divorce or relational challenges within the home. Those types of people tend to be a little more desperate than people who have more going for them and they don't reach that very painful, in a way, I often felt like the separation from my culture was very much like a divorce.
Oh, yeah.
And I find that same pain in people who've been through the heartbreak of a relationship not turning out the way they hoped.
Right. That's very good, because divorce would be right up there. And how do you get over that and breaking free from that? So what other issues do you see women need to break free from?
Well, a lot of times women have this tendency to be the fixers, the nurturers, and they don't remember about their own lives or and we need to be givers to our children. And then you have women who are on the other end of it. They don't know how to care for their families or their children. So, the pendulum can swing whichever way and we can be off.
Right.
So we try to get the pendulum in the middle, and then you have transitional times where people may be phasing out of the job and want to become an entrepreneur. I'm an entrepreneur myself, so I really love being in the communities of entrepreneurs. And so that's a transition that people are going through. Or sometimes it is the leaving the job and retiring, and then what do I do now? And it's anytime you have transition in your life, it's new territory.
Right. So you broke free. So what contributed to you breaking free, and then what contributes you to staying free? So we can sometimes break free, but then we can go right back. What helps you stay free?
Well, that is a really hard one because it is one thing to break free and the other thing to stay free. You take anybody that has a challenge with weight loss or alcoholism or any of those types of addictions, you really have to guard carefully to not allow yourself to be pulled back into something that's familiar and even behaviors. And I think what helped me continue to grow, and some of my breaking frees are still happening 18 years after my
Right.
first initial breakthrough. And I'm like, oh, here's an area of my life that I was still being held back. And it may have been more of an emotional connection that that I wasn't able to completely resolve and know how to move forward with. And then here comes another set of people in my life. I say it is always people who they're the heroes in my life. I was pretty much the messed up person that always needs the help. And I'll probably stay that way. I'll probably always need the people in my life that help me grow and challenge me to not just settle and
Right, right. And it's having the right people in our life that do challenge us.
Yes.
And cause us to look inwards and to grow.
Yes.
Because we can be attracted to the wrong people that feed into our story. But if
Yes.
we're about to break free, then we want somebody that actually challenges us. And I think that's what you're talking about.
Yes.
Yeah. And I like what else you said. You said like an alcoholic or somebody that's overeating, you still have to guard yourself carefully because as humans, we're so easily sidetracked and can go back down because we haven't, put little reinforcements in our environment so that we stay steady. Now, that for me, with losing 130 pounds, I have to have. There's certain trigger foods that I can't have in the house, or if I do have them in the house, I can't start with one tortilla chip, or I want the whole bag. So I think when you use the word guard carefully, I think when we break free, we still have to watch ourselves to guard ourselves. So I love that word guard.
Well, somebody explained it to me one time in this way. They said, when family spirits are really strong, our family, what's familiar to a family is usually pretty comfortable. If we've had any sort of a safety in our home, when we go back home, it's real easy to kick our shoes off, flop on the couch in a way that you might not anywhere else.
Right.
So there's something familiar in our family habits, the environments that we've created by who we were, that as we grow and we leave that, when I first went back to my family visiting, it was major warfare for me. It was major battle because it wanted to pull me down. It wanted to attack itself. It attacked me, and those familiar things wanted to attach themselves to me. And I had to, again, like I say, guard. And,
right.
Part of my thing is that internal guiding system of God is what has been still continued to be my guiding system. But somebody explained to me like an old familiar family pattern, whatever it is that we've broken free from, is like if you now are in your new home and it's your new home. You've got the windows, the walls, the floors, the way you want them. The old family patterns, or what we've broken free from, is like opening up the door and saying to a robber coming into, or a thief coming into your new home, hey, come on in. You're so familiar. I know you. But they're in there to steal from you.
I love that. Yeah.
So we cannot allow ourselves to pat the back and rub their feet and say, hey, you're so comfortable. I know you. But they're actually thieves in our house. in our
Right.
new life, in our new freedom, and they're there to take our freedom back again. So I remember sometimes actually opening my back door and like just screaming or yelling at these pressures or these just oppressive things that I could feel wanting to make me less than, make me believe I'm bad, make me believe I'm not enough, make me believe that anything but good.
Right.
And so I would just open the door and like imaginarily chase them out.
Right.
And I would do things like that. I remember early on, I would actually visualize that some of these, I had to fight guilt so hard. I felt so guilty and so bad and so wrong. And I used to say it's like guilt tied me to a whipping post, and it would whip me with guilt, and it just it would make me become less, like shrink me into this, you can't do this. And I started recognizing in ways that guilt would come at me, and I would in my mind like pick up a rock and throw it at that little imp. I saw it as a little imp, and I'd throw that rock at the imp and it would knock it out. I grab it by its heels, I drag it out of my town, my imaginary town, and throw it over an embankment. And so those are some of my techniques that I use to just keep my mind freer and freer all the time, to where I was thinking good thoughts, and what was coming from what I was embodying were thoughts of good and increase, and that I am enough and I'm not forever a failure. Or
Right. And I love that, Marian, because I think it's taking actual action. I have had to do with that to myself several times, look in the mirror directly, say out loud validations and affirmations, because there were these other voices trying to take me down. And so I want to say to the audience once again, because when Marian talked about the imp, or the being tied to a pole and whipping her into oblivion because of guilt, you do not have to feel guilt. So some of these visualizing methods are really, really helpful, because what will happen is our mind tricks us and it will go back there. And what you do is you put in place some of the things that Marian has just talked about, and you can design it however you want. She flung her door open and screamed, whatever you need to do, because in order for us to quiet those voices, we need some kind of action. Is that how you see it too, Marian?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So you have this is interesting to me. You have a worldview. And so I want you to talk about this, because I'm curious about it. It says, pretty much everything you try doesn't work. Why would you say that? That I'm going, well, I try things and they work. So why are you saying that?
You've also tried things that haven't worked.
Right.
Okay, so you don't want to stop there. And the reason you have things that worked is because you've always tried again. You take a baby starting out walking. How many babies just walk perfectly the first time they start out? How many?
How many? Zero.
Yeah, probably zero. Maybe there's one or two in the history that have just taken off walking and they never had to fall down. But most of the time, I grew up with lots of nieces and nephews, and I've got to watch a few children start out their walking career. And it's really fun to work with them. You build their confidence, and we'd sit like a couple feet apart from each other and let them just like literally run into your arms. And they fall if you weren't there to catch them. But, it was a lot of fun that way. And that is how I see it. We just can't get discouraged when we fall or when we miss the mark, and know that when we try again, we learn more, we ask for more help, we try again, we work again, we open that door and tell those ugly old voices to get out and to leave again. And we start declaring those affirmative words more often. then the emotional healing will come more quickly and will become stronger.